In this era where workers often refer to themselves as corporate slaves, I once felt proud of my smooth sailing career, only to be hit hard and fast by reality. Not only was I denied my wages, but the company also took advantage of my mother's serious illness to slander me, attempting to fire me for absenteeism without any compensation. It was utterly infuriating. The boss had initially assured me that there would be no favoritism and advised me to apply for leave directly, but it turned out to be a trap.
Lily Young, do you admit that you have failed to meet the company's KPIs for several months?
That's because the company hasn't paid us, and almost everyone in the department has left. The project can't function properly.
Please don't try to change the subject. Answer my question directly.
Anger surged within me.
Michael Ho, stop pretending to be so righteous. Do you even realize what you're doing? You're helping the company to frame your own girlfriend.
My eyes reddened as I shouted, and the room fell silent. Even the stern-faced arbitrator on the stage was momentarily stunned. Michael Ho clearly didn't expect me to lose control on the spot, and a hint of embarrassment flashed in his eyes.
I helped you get this legal job. Now you're doing everything you can to help the company avoid paying me my owed wages and compensation. You're such an ungrateful person.
Anna N is the boss and my direct superior. As the executive assistant to the general manager, I did indeed help Michael Ho get into the company through the back door.
You blatantly ignored company policies and took unauthorized leave.
That's nonsense. My mother is still in the hospital waiting for money to save her life. The boss had confirmed my leave as paid vacation, and now you're joining them in slandering me. Michael Ho, are you even human? Without my parents' financial support, would you have the chance to stand here now?
Michael's face turned icy at my words, and he looked at the arbitrator coldly.
Arbitrator, the plaintiff is digressing. Her statements are irrelevant to the case.
The arbitrator quickly regained his composure and reminded me calmly.
Plaintiff, please control your emotions.
Control my emotions? My boyfriend stabbed me in the back at my lowest point, and I'm supposed to control my emotions. As soon as the arbitration ended, I ran out, biting my lip. Just as I reached the hospital entrance, someone grabbed my arm forcefully from behind.
Let go.
Lily, listen to me.
I shook off his hand fiercely.
Get lost. I don't want to talk to someone as heartless as you. We're breaking up.
Lily, news of your labor arbitration has spread, causing a huge uproar in the company. If you win today, others will follow suit, and the company will collapse.
So you resorted to underhanded tactics to sabotage me.
I've discussed it with Ms. Ann. We'll let you lose the arbitration, but we'll compensate you privately.
His words left me stunned, unable to react for a moment. Seeing this, he put his arm around my shoulder and comforted me.
It happened suddenly. Ms. Ann called me before the hearing, so I didn't have time to inform you. I didn't expect you to lose your temper so quickly.
I glanced at him skeptically, unsure whether to believe him. Recalling his aggressive demeanor in the arbitration room, I couldn't help but shiver. Something felt off. The room was tense as Michael leaned closer, lowering his voice.
I've discussed it with Ms. Ann. We'll let you lose the arbitration, but we'll compensate you privately.
His words left me stunned, unable to react for a moment.
It happened suddenly. Ms. Ann called me before the hearing, so I didn't have time to inform you. I didn't expect you to lose your temper so quickly.
I glanced at him skeptically, unsure whether to believe him. Recalling his aggressive demeanor in the arbitration room, I couldn't help but shiver. Something felt off. In the quiet room, tensions ran high as Michael leaned closer, his voice barely a whisper.
I've discussed it with Ms. Ann. We'll let you lose the arbitration, but we'll compensate you privately.
His words left me stunned, unable to react for a moment. He noticed my confusion and gently put his arm around my shoulder.
It happened suddenly. Ms. and called me before the hearing, so I didn't have time to inform you. I didn't expect you to lose your temper so quickly.
I glanced at him, unsure whether to believe him. His aggressive demeanor in the arbitration room still haunted me. On the third day, I received over $50,000 from the company's account. But before I could breathe a sigh of relief, my mom was suddenly rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment due to gastrointestinal bleeding.
The situation is critical. We recommend an immediate pressure-reducing intervention surgery, but the risk is 50%, and a family member needs to sign a consent form. Without the surgery, your mom might not last a few days.
I signed the consent form decisively, but my hands were trembling uncontrollably. The doctor told us to prepare for the payment, and the surgery would start early the next morning. My dad handed me the house deed without a word. But tomorrow was the weekend, and the bank had already closed for the day. Even with the house deed, I couldn't get a loan. Trembling, I called Michael Ho.
Lily, I really don't recommend surgery for Aunt in her current state. The risk is high, and the process is painful. At the late stage of her illness, the focus should be on improving the quality of life. Otherwise, you'll end up regretting it.
My heart sank to the bottom.
That's my mom. I can't just watch her suffer. Even if there's only a glimmer of hope.
The other end of the line fell silent.
You promised to negotiate my compensation with Ms. N. I urgently need that money to save my mom's life.
Ms. N is out of the country these days. There's nothing I can do. And don't think about coming to my house. I sent my parents on a trip, and they won't be back anytime soon.
His words left me cold. I had fallen for his delaying tactics once again. With my mom in critical condition, I had no energy to argue with him. I gritted my teeth, hung up the phone, and started borrowing money from relatives and friends. It was sudden, and raising a large sum of money in such a short time wasn't easy. Just as I was at my wit's end, someone sent me a 200,000 transfer on WeChat. To my surprise, it was from a former colleague I wasn't very familiar with, David Cheng. I stared at the transfer amount in disbelief and immediately called him back.
I heard about your situation. Consider this a loan from me.
Thank you. I'll repay it with bank interest.
No need for interest. Let's have a meal together when it's all over. I have something to ask of you.
His words instantly made my heart race. Owing money is one thing, but owing a favor is much harder to repay.
What is it?
We'll talk when we meet. Nothing is more important than Aunt's surgery right now.
Remembering how Sarah Shaw and others had set me up before, I worried it might be a trap. I was about to refuse, but his words made me reconsider. The room fell silent as he leaned closer to my ear, his voice barely above a whisper.
I've discussed it with Ms. N. We'll let you lose the arbitration, but we'll compensate you privately.
His words left me stunned, unable to react for a moment.
It happened suddenly. Ms. N called me before the hearing, so I didn't have time to inform you. I didn't expect you to lose your temper so quickly.
I glanced at him skeptically, unsure whether to believe him. Recalling his aggressive demeanor in the arbitration room, I couldn't help but shiver. Something felt off. The office was dimly lit, the tension palpable. I still couldn't believe what I heard.
I've discussed it with Ms. N. We'll arrange for you to lose the arbitration, but we'll compensate you privately.
His words left me stunned, unable to react for a moment.
It happened suddenly. Ms. N called me before the hearing, so I didn't have time to inform you. I didn't expect you to lose your temper so quickly.
I glanced at him skeptically, unsure whether to believe him. Recalling his aggressive demeanor in the arbitration room, I couldn't help but shiver. Something felt off. As Anna Ann's former assistant, I had a certain level of understanding of her social circle and habits. I knew she had a secret boyfriend, rumored to be a wealthy man, which gave her the confidence to act so recklessly.
Should we try to plant a listening device or something?
He shook his head gravely.
Anna Ann is too cautious. I once sent her a gift with a micro camera hidden in it, but she throws away anything suspicious.
I pondered for a moment.
I have an idea.
Anna Ann's birthday is on the 2nd of next month, and given the current situation, Michael Ho would definitely make a gesture. We had to start with Michael Ho. But after the lawsuit, our relationship was practically ruined. After much thought, I decided to visit his hometown again. As he had mentioned, his parents were sent on a trip. I knocked on the door of a neighbor, carrying a bag of fruit, and asked for his parents' phone numbers. The neighbor was initially wary. But after I tearfully explained that Michael Ho wanted to break up because my mom was seriously ill, her attitude changed to one of righteous indignation.
That's terrible. Let me call his mother for you.
She quickly called Michael Ho's mother, exaggerated the situation, and handed me the phone.
Aunt.
Lily, don't cry. If that ungrateful boy really did such a thing, your uncle and I won't forgive him. Don't worry, we'll support you. If he dares to break up with you, we won't acknowledge him.
This tactic worked. The next day, Michael Ho showed up at my place looking defeated.
Lily, I never intended to break up with you. Believe me, everything I did was for our future.
But the way you are now feels so unfamiliar. You even schemed against me for money.
His expression softened, and he pulled me into his arms.
I'm sorry. I've been too aggressive lately and hurt you. I promise it won't happen again. Once we're married, all the money I make will be yours.
I couldn't help but sneer. How could he think a few sweet words would make me forgive him? During our date, I found an opportunity to get his phone. The unlocked password was our anniversary, so I easily opened it. I first downloaded a location tracking app and set it to hidden mode, then checked his chats with Anna and Emily Huang. The chat history was completely wiped clean. There was nothing. I opened his payment records on Alipay and WeChat, but remembered they mostly used cash transactions. I then checked his shopping platform, finding only a few transactions for office supplies. Even the search history was meticulously cleared. Just as I was feeling disappointed, I thought to check the related recommendations. They were all various women's designer bags and jewelry. A wide variety, all over the place. Michael Ho came from a poor background and knew little about brands. I could imagine how much he struggled to choose gifts. I smiled. A few days later, we went out for a hot pot. I stared at the clear soup base, lost in thought. He paused while adding shrimp paste and asked with concern.
What's wrong? Is your mom's health not good these days?
My mom's been doing okay. It's just that a girl haggled me down so much earlier, it ruined my mood.
Haggled over what?
Half a year ago, I had a friend who worked as a fashion editor reserve a limited edition trendy t-shirt for me. It was meant for Anna Ann. She loved that brand. Though it wasn't very expensive, it was popular in the trendy circles. Now that our relationship was ruined, I couldn't give it to her. Desperate for money and unable to find a new job, I wanted to sell it quickly. But the price was haggled down so much. Michael Ho's eyes lit up after hearing my explanation.
How about this? Don't sell it to anyone else yet. I have a friend who's also into trendy brands. Send me a photo, and I'll ask him.
Okay.
I indeed had the limited edition t-shirt I had reserved for Anna Ann. It was still in perfect condition, along with its packaging. The t-shirt had a unique design, with a cool teddy bear sewn on the left shoulder and right waist. I hid a micro camera in the teddy bear's eye on the left shoulder. David Cheng worriedly asked.
Won't it get damaged if it's washed?
I rolled my eyes. This kind of clothing could only be cleaned at a dry cleaner, not in a washing machine. Half a day later, Michael Ho replied that his friend was interested in the t-shirt and willing to buy it at market price. I happily asked for the address to mail it, but he said he was meeting his friend in a few days and could hand it over directly.
Okay.
I agreed readily. No one expected that the trendy t-shirt we gave Anna would become the key to our revenge. Whether she genuinely liked it or wanted to show her appreciation for Michael Ho, she wore that t-shirt on her birthday date.
We finally saw the mysterious boyfriend in person. He turned out to be a nearly 6-foot-tall, heavy-set man.
From Anna, we learned that his name was Henry Sue, and they were from the same hometown. They drank quite a bit of fine wine at a secluded upscale restaurant, and their passion ignited. They couldn't even wait to get back to the hotel and started getting intimate in the car. The t-shirt was taken off and loosely hung on Anna's arm, capturing their passionate moments clearly. The scene was almost unbearable to watch. But halfway through, Henry Sue received a call, seemingly urgent. He could only kiss her reassuringly before hurriedly pulling up his pants and leaving by taxi.
Michael, come pick me up.
Less than half an hour later, Michael Ho arrived in a gray-blue tracksuit, greeted her indifferently, and got into the driver's seat. His casual, handsome appearance was a refreshing change for her, who was used to seeing him in suits, and her gaze was more intense than usual. Back at the hotel, she shed her usual aloof demeanor and clung to him like an octopus. Standing at 5 feet 7 inches, Anna's robust build was far from the delicate, bird-like girl's. With Michael Ho's reservations, she managed to pin him down, taking advantage of him. His face turned red and then white.
Stop it, Anna.
As her hands roamed more boldly, and her alcohol-laden breath hit his face, his cleanliness obsession finally made him push her away and vomit by the bed. Caught off guard, Anna fell off the bed, sprawling on the floor. The camera couldn't capture her face, but her piercing curses revealed her embarrassment and anger.
Are you sick? Are you even a man? How dare you vomit? Get out right now.
Michael Ho, clutching his stomach, fled the hotel in disarray. Watching this ridiculous scene, I felt both amused and a tinge of sadness and pity. Who says only girls need to protect themselves? See, even good-looking boys aren't safe. Compared to my mixed feelings, David Cheng was only filled with excitement.
The 2 videos we accidentally captured tonight are enough to ruin Anna's reputation. But we didn't alert them, continuing to gather useful information.
Unfortunately, after that birthday night, the trendy t-shirt was thrown into the closet, never to be worn again. We had to turn our attention back to Michael Ho. I placed a sachet in his briefcase, hiding a micro eavesdropper in the spices. During a weekend meal at his place, I sneaked into his study. The desk lamp was a birthday gift I gave him last year. Its simple, elegant design also featured an alarm clock, wireless charging, speaker, and recording functions. I activated the recording function, logged into my account, set it to autosave, and uploaded it to the cloud. Afterward, I gave the account password to David Cheng, who began monitoring their activities around the clock. After some time, David Cheng asked me to meet at the same restaurant, saying he had new findings.
Anna has evidence of Emily Huang accepting kickbacks from suppliers, and Emily Huang has dirt on Michael Ho for forging documents. Michael Ho probably also has some unknown secrets about Anna and Henry Sue.
I was stunned.
What secrets?
Not sure yet, but I found out Henry Sue has a wife. The real wealth and power come from his father-in-law.
Anna is the other woman?
Yes. Isn't this like a game of animal chess? Elephants eat tigers, tigers eat cats, cats eat mice, and mice defeat elephants. Once the balance is broken, all relationships will collapse.
Narrator, tone, serious. He quickly shook his head, lowered his voice, and leaned closer to my ear.
I've discussed it with Ms. N. We'll let you lose the arbitration, but we'll compensate you privately.
Narrator, tone, stunned. His words left me stunned, unable to react for a moment.
David Cheng, tone, comforting. It happened suddenly. Ms. called me before the hearing, so I didn't have time to inform you. I didn't expect you to lose your temper so quickly.
Narrator, tone, skeptical. I glanced at him skeptically, unsure whether to believe him. Recalling his aggressive demeanor in the arbitration room, I couldn't help but shiver. Something felt off. He quickly shook his head, lowered his voice, and leaned closer to my ear.
I've discussed it with Ms. N. We'll let you lose the arbitration, but we'll compensate you privately.
His words left me stunned, unable to react for a moment.
It happened suddenly. Ms. N called me before the hearing, so I didn't have time to inform you. I didn't expect you to lose your temper so quickly.
I glanced at him skeptically, unsure whether to believe him. Recalling his aggressive demeanor in the arbitration room, I couldn't help but shiver. Something felt off. In a hushed tone, he shook his head and leaned closer to my ear.
I've discussed it with Ms. N. We'll let you lose the arbitration, but we'll compensate you privately.
His words left me stunned, unable to react for a moment.
It happened suddenly. Ms. N called me before the hearing, so I didn't have time to inform you. I didn't expect you to lose your temper so quickly.
I glanced at him skeptically, unsure whether to believe him. Recalling his aggressive demeanor in the arbitration room, I couldn't help but shiver. Something felt off. In the dimly lit room, John leaned closer to my ear, his voice barely a whisper.
I've discussed it with Ms. N. We'll let you lose the arbitration, but we'll compensate you privately.
His words left me stunned, unable to react for a moment. John, noticing my shock, put his arm around my shoulder, trying to comfort me.
It happened suddenly. Ms. N called me before the hearing, so I didn't have time to inform you. I didn't expect you to lose your temper so quickly.
I glanced at him skeptically, unsure whether to believe him. Recalling his aggressive demeanor in the arbitration room, I couldn't help but feel uneasy.